Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the GC360 podcast recorded right here at the Garden City New York Media Studio. I am your host, Erica Becker, and on this show we have some of the most interesting and influential and creative people in the community. And today I definitely have some super creative ladies on the episode with me, and I cannot wait to get into it. With me, joining me in the studio today is Veronica and Nicole Parisi. They are co-founders of My Macaron Canvas. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. We've been talking a little bit.
Yes.
And I can't wait to share with the audience what we've been speaking about and get into more deeper things about the business that you've started this year.
Absolutely.
So, just to get right into it, when did you start this business and how did you guys meet? Let's start with that.
All right. I like that question and how we first met. So it turns out it was around, I think, February, right?
Yes,
is when we
February,
first kind of linked up. It was actually through Instagram, and we were doing a collaboration together that was kind of filled with bakers from around the world. It was based on, I think, actually a fall theme that we had worked on, like something with pumpkins related.
Yeah.
And in that group, I noticed that Veronica is somebody that's another baker from Long Island, so we kind of linked up that way, and that's where we formed our friendship just from the start. So you want to touch base on then how we came about the idea of forming My Macaron Canvas.
Yes. Oh, you both have your own bakeries.
Exactly.
Yes, we have our own,
exactly.
We're home bakers. So I had the idea of doing like a canvas painting type of thing for macarons. I absolutely love art. I love painting. And it's an idea that came up like about a year ago. And after I had met Nicole and I see what she was doing, and that she's a cookie decorator, she does the hand paint art, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, listen, I have this idea. What do you think about it? You know, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. She absolutely loved the idea of doing canvas painting using edible mediums such as gel colors and buttercream frosting, and you can create pictures. So it's like having cookie decorating and canvas painting in one.
Exactly.
And what the best part about it is that yes, you get to paint it, but you also get to eat it too.
Yep. And that's a little bit of our fun catchphrase.
Yes,
you
so
paint
that's
it
the
and
fun
eat it
part.
too.
Yeah. So when did you do your first class?
Our first class was a Mother's Day theme, so I think it was around May. It was May 13th, I think. So we wanted to do a Mother's Day theme, and it was in the making for a few months. You know, we definitely first met. Actually, we decided before anything, we met in person for the first time, and we kind of discussed just like brainstorming ideas of like what we wanted to do, and that's when we came up with the Mother's Day class. So that was our first event that was held at Sand City Brewery in Lindenhurst. So it was a fun little day for either your daughters, mothers to come out and spend some time with mom. So that was our first event that we did.
Yeah. I love it. Excuse me. And I love that we were talking about this a little bit earlier, that you guys it's not a manufactured kind of like printed out weird ingredients to make your cookies look good. You guys actually like use real icing, things that taste good, and you do it by hand, right?
100%. Exactly. Everything we make is made from scratch, so we're not buying any tubs of icing or buttercream from the store. Everything we make from scratch with good ingredients. And like you just said, like we're not using a printing machine such as it's called. One of the machines is an Eddy. It's an Eddy machine, and they form edible images. So everything we're doing is by hand. It's organic looking, it's natural, and we find a lot of beauty in the imperfections.
That's the fun part, really. It's when you create it by your own hand, and it's just something. The feeling that it gives you is just something that you can't really get with hand, machine.
Exactly, anything that's store bought, and we make everything. If we're doing custom orders, it's custom order to fit your exact theme. If you have an invitation to share with us, different names or something special or unique to that person, we're able to create that by hand, which is something really, just again, really unique that you're not going to get from a store-bought item.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like if you're doing it, it's never going to be recreated twice.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny you touched on that because I say this all the time to people. Even if somebody reaches out and they want an order that was something based on a theme I had already done, I probably, even myself, if I was recreating my own work, it's still never going to look the exact same as when I did it, a few months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm incorporating different techniques or a different color, so it's still always going to come out a little more unique than it was ever done. So, but that's the beautiful part of it.
That's absolutely, and that's what we encourage in our classes. We actually encourage people to take that creative freedom. You know, we give them the inspiration photos. We say, hey, this is what it's going to be. This is our theme for the class, but you can make it your own. You don't have to use the exact same colors. You don't have to go in the exact same direction, as long as you just stay within the theme and create your own thing. And a lot of people really, they come out with it they just love it. I think they have a sense of like,
sense of pride,
yeah,
just, I think, too, and just a beautiful sense of enjoyment,
of like,
you know?
oh, look what I did, especially those who've never done something like this before. You know, they're like, I don't have, like you said, I don't have a creative bone in my body.
That's what a lot of people come to our class starting out saying, but they leave with
and they're kind of a little skeptic at first. They're like, well, I don't know. This is,
and it does. It takes, and that's the beauty of it too. Like, is when someone first comes to the class, of course, in the beginning, we're going to give you the tools to utilize. We're going to kind of walk you by a couple, some instructions on, if we're starting out, maybe just how to start with the background on something, just so they're getting like a feel of how to work with the paintbrush or the palette knife. So it takes a little bit of time to getting used to it. But once they're in it, like, you kind of zone out too. And like, you're just, anything that's going, that's the way I look at with painting too. Like any life stressors, I completely forget about it in that moment. And I'm just so focused on the design I'm working with. So it's therapeutic in that aspect too, and I'm a social worker by day, so I love embracing that in creativity with something edible that you could eat.
Definitely. I was going to ask a little bit about that. So I'm sure a lot of people have painted something in their life, right?
Yep.
And I've gone to some of these paint and sip canvas classes, and they're very fun. So would you say that, how is this different than that? I'm sure that the technique is different, and then you also say that you don't really give us a step-by-step way. So how does your class work then? How do you kind of get them to bring out the theme or their creativity?
Yes, good question. You want to take a lead?
Yeah. So we bring photos, like inspiration photos, and we have been promoting them also online, and we're showing what the class is gonna be. So like the pictures that you see, that's mostly what you will create.
Yep, and we set them up on table like numbers, like on display, so they have like an actual photo reference right there to look at.
Right, and then we just say, okay, we kind of start off with what. And we give them a direction and what line, where they can start off with, what paintbrush to start using. We usually start with the gel colors. We always do the little ones first, because that's the hand paint art, which we use with the gel colors. And they kind of just go in for it, most of the time. And then we move on over to the palette knife technique, which is on the bigger macaron that we do, and with the buttercream and stuff like that. And by the time they get to that, they're kind of already into it. They already know, and then they start kind of just taking over their own design, basically. Like the luau theme that we do have coming up at the end of the month, we gonna it's the main theme is the flamingo. We're gonna do a flamingo on the big macaron. So I'm really excited to see how people kind of take that and where they take the flamingo. But we guide, and whoever doesn't know how to do something, we always help them. We show them, we give them, with the colors, and we show them a little stroke technique here and there. But it's very relaxing. It's a very relaxing time. We want people to come and have a good time. We want them to have fun and just kind of be stress-free. Like she said, you're just so focused, and it really just helps to relax you and have... It does something to the person, just makes you have so much fun.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how did each of you get into the art part and the baking part? I want to know both.
That's
great. Did you start baking first and then art, or were you artistic, or did it kind of go together?
I would say for myself, so I don't want to date myself, but over a decade ago, I was in high school, and I used to take actually APR classes. My mom went to FIT. She was always a very creative, crafty person. So from a young age, I've always loved painting, and throughout those classes, my focus too was horticulture. So that's like my specialty, is definitely anything floral in nature, plant life. I love that things don't have to be perfect to be beautiful. So that's kind of where I've always started from, just being a creative person. Never thought I'd ever do anything with that skill set in my life. And it wasn't until I think almost 2 years ago, I started I saw on Instagram actually cookie decorating videos. So I started with the cookies first, and I quickly became obsessed with it. And then I took actually a class April of 2022 in Manhattan, a French macaron class.
Oh.
So that's where I learned how to make them. My first batches were not that great at all, but then they, the more you practice with it, I got better with it. And then I just, again, on Instagram, I started to see, wow, like not only can I paint on my cookies, I could also do it on my macarons. And that's where I just kind of took off with it. So I've been now, for myself, we do have our own separate businesses on top of being co-owners of My Macaron Canvas, but I also run my baking business, which is called Fruity Bake. So I customize in sugar cookies and macarons, and of course the hand-painted work is my specialty.
Yeah. So cool.
So for me, I didn't start off with macarons. I actually starting with like cupcakes. I wanted to do like a cupcake business, and then kind of went into cakes, and then I ended up dabbing into macarons, and that actually started after I was in the dental field for almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And my last job that I was in got let go, and it was literally a few years before COVID.
Yep.
I ended up getting pregnant again. I had my little one at home, and I was like, you know what? It looks like in the cards I have to be, a stay-at-home mom at this point. We were just like, this is what we're gonna do. And I wanted to start something of my own at this point. I was like, well, I want to start my own business. And I was like, well, let's get into baking. Never really baked that much before. So when I started, it was a little rough. But I started doing macarons, and at first, they were like my nemesis. I was like, I couldn't get one batch right.
tricky.
I was like, I'm not doing this. Forget it. I'm dropping it. Done. Not doing this ever again. And literally, it took me a year and a half before I picked them up again. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just try it again. Yeah. And it does take a while. It really does take some time to actually learn the right technique for yourself, honestly, because even though, somebody can give you a recipe, sometimes it may not work for you, especially depending on where you live,
climate,
in the world, the climate, again,
your oven that you have, there's so many factors.
So many factors that go in. So when you find the right recipe or the right method, because there are different methods. So the method that we normally use is the French method.
Yes.
There's the Italian method and there's the Swiss method. So I have not learned those other two. I only do the French one.
I steer far away from that as well. So we both stick with the French method. But the main difference, I think, with those is with the egg whites that we use. For any of the Swiss or Italian method, I believe, you have to heat up both the egg, the egg whites.
I think it's like an extra step, and for me, I'm like, I'm not
dealing with thermometers,
I don't have time.
And it's just for myself. Too much. It's too much of a process where more things can go wrong. Yeah. So
I got my kids.
I prefer the French
I'm
method.
trying to just get straight to what I need to.
And we don't have to heat up the egg whites prior when we're making the meringue.
I've never known that.
Yeah. So once I kind of locked down my recipe and I learned it, I was like, I fell in love. And the more I did it, the more I loved it. And I was like, this is definitely me. And just recently, actually, a few months ago, I did change my business solely on macarons.
Oh.
So it was, I am an owner of Pat Oliver's, which is named after both my sons, Patrick and Oliver. So I combined their names.
Nice.
And my saying for that, it used to be a bit of love with the cupcakes. Again, I started off with doing cupcakes and cakes, and then now I changed it to a bit of love with the macaron. So again, I took that. So it all started with baking, and then doing like the artsy stuff really came from inspirations from others and Instagram and stuff like that. And I always loved art. And I was like, well, I'm going to try this. And it started off with line art, actually, where you just do simple lines with just the black gel colors or black marker and start creating things. And then I just took off from there. And I was like, all right, I want to do something with this.
Yeah.
And that's... year later, here we are with My Macaron Canvas.
I love that. Wow, these paths that led you guys together. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So we are going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the difference between a macaroon and a macaron, because I never knew that there even was two different things. So we will be right back after these messages.
My father never stops moving, but after he had a brain aneurysm, he had a difficult time getting back to his normal routine. That's when I called Alliance Services. They paired him with Rosa. She developed a custom home care plan that helped him with his recovery.
Rosa helped me gain my independence back.
Alliance Services, helping older adults continue to live well and independent.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this episode of the GC360 podcast. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're just now joining us, I'm here with Veronica and Nicole, two very creative bakers, and they actually co-own My Macaron Canvas, which is a school of teaching you how to paint on your macarons, basically. We were just talking about how you both got into the baking and the artistic side of the business. So I want you to talk a little bit about the difference between a macaron and a macaroon, because I didn't even know that I thought that they were just macaroons. And I guess if I ever saw it spelled like macaron, I just assumed the person was spelling it wrong.
And that happens often. Most
Yes,
people do tend to.
So we need you to clarify, what is the diff?
That is a good question, because we get asked that often. And
Yes,
usually when we're
yes.
telling people about that too, they're under the assumption that we make macaroons,
Yeah.
which are usually a type of, it's just another form of a cookie. But it's made with
Yes.
chocolate and coconut, typically, like
So
kind
it's
of covered on
yes.
top. But the macarons are definitely a little different. The main base of those, it's a meringue-based cookie that is made with egg white, almond flour, sugar, and then we have additional fillings that we put with it.
Yeah.
Yep. So-
Okay. So do they look a little bit, so I'm actually gonna show these. They brought some samples, which is
And they match your outfit.
pretty. I know. We didn't even plan that. So these look to me, I can tell they do look different than what I think a macaroon. Macaroons,
Right,
they
it's
are
a-
thinner, right?
No.
Or
it's
not? Am I wrong? I
more-
don't.
I think there's
a-
usually no filling, I think, right? They're usually just
There's
kind of like
no
a drop style cookie, and then they
Yes.
kind of cover it with just like
chocolate.
and coconut on
Right,
top.
yeah,
So it's like a little chewy.
It's like
I
a little
guess.
mound. It looks like a
A
little
mound, that's a good way
it's
to put it.
coconut
This looks
mound.
like a mini like hamburger almost.
Yes,
Like
yes.
a
Exactly.
sandwich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a little cookie sandwich.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you'll notice on these, this is what we strive for. You see these little like the kind
In
of
the middle?
edges, like on the sides of these.
Oh yeah.
Those are called feet, and you want to
Feet.
see good feet
Yes.
on your macarons. I
It
never
really
thought
makes a
when I comment on
difference.
people's posts on
Okay.
Instagram, I never thought I'd be saying things like that. But
Smell
I
good.
tell people your feet look great on your macarons.
Right, yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah, they
awesome.
So that's
call
when
them
you know you
feet,
got a good
yeah.
macaron.
So you have the
And-
smooth top, smooth
Yep, smooth
bottoms,
top.
the beautiful feet. You want that
Yep.
nice little round feet, and any filling that you want it to be. That's what the cookie becomes.
So you brought a filling of vanilla and
vanilla buttercream and a dark chocolate ganache.
yummy. So then with macarons, can you also change the flavor of the cookie itself?
Oh, that's a good question. There's definitely bakers that do flavor their shells. A lot of times they might recommend a dry ingredient. So sometimes people might use like a freeze-dried strawberry or freeze-dried blueberry, and then you could kind of crush it up into a powder form, so you're not going to really ruin the consistency of the cookie. But there's other ways, I think, too. There's probably other flavorings that people could use, maybe extracts and whatnot.
they do a few
But
extracts,
for myself personally, I don't really typically flavor them. I kind of keep in my standard like vanilla flavor, and then I just fill them with other fillings, like different flavors for that stuff.
That is, like you said, with these cookies, it takes a few days to actually be ready for
yes.
consumption.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, good point.
going along with if you're not gonna flavoring your shells, the shells absorb the flavor of the filling, and that takes for that to actually happen, it's called maturation. So we have to let them mature in the refrigerator
Yep.
for about 24 to 48 hours
Oh.
before they can be really ready, because that's the time that it actually starts to absorb the filling that you put
Yep.
inside of it and becoming the flavor that you're looking for, the cookie flavor that
Okay.
you want.
And that's why we call it a bougie cookie, because they are very finicky little dessert to make, and they take time to
Yeah.
process and
Yes.
become full and flavorful. So it's
Yes.
usually about probably start to finish, I would say at least
3 to 4 days.
3 to 4 day process, just to
Really?
come up with, a custom order or macarons that we're selling, for
Yeah.
consumption.
Okay, because I know how a regular dough type of like sugar cookie
Yep.
or chocolate chip cookie, you make the
Yep.
dough, you throw it in the oven, and that's
That's
it.
Exactly, it's ready
Exactly.
to eat
It's
as
ready
soon
to
as
go.
it comes out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
these are like a process.
There's a process.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still, trust me, like my husband loves to try them. He's one of my taste testers. So like he might eat it like right out of the oven, like after it's been,
Yeah.
sitting for a few minutes. But the only thing is you'll notice like they do have a crispier bite, and they're not getting as, when you
Yes,
eliminate the maturation process, they're not getting to like filling up to their full potential. So they're not, the just like enjoyment of it is not the best until you wait a few days. So
Oh, okay.
you want them to mature.
And then you said they're finicky, so a lot of factors play into how well
Yes.
they come out. So even if you were mentioning the same recipe, the same like batch of dough, different batches can come out in different ways.
Yes. Yeah.
Why is that?
Absolutely. One job.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I don't know. It could be maybe the temp of the oven all of a sudden changes. If it, after a while of using it, maybe gotten too hot and something changes with the temperature in the oven or in temperature in the room even. Sometimes even from the oven too, because it can't, moisture is not their friend.
Not their friend. So any humidity is not good to do it in.
Rain, rainy days, humid days they're not working out well together.
Wow.
We usually wait for it has to be dry and cool.
Yes.
Dry and cool are the best environment for them to be able to mature and to, first of all, to dry, to rest better, and to bake better.
Yep.
So.
And also another thing is too, we always have to be careful when we're macaronaging our batter, we're actually mixing it. You don't want to over mix it either, because if you kind of make it too thin, it's not gonna hold its shape very well. And you'll see, like when they bake, they're not gonna come out as
this is something
as full
we call overfeet.
Yes.
So then the little nice perfectly round feet that you see on the cookie will just kind of be spread out. And it'll be too flat, and it'll be very thin.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you handle the cookie too, like I said, they're very
Very,
finicky.
yes,
You got to handle
fragile.
it delicately.
They're very fragile
because
too, yes.
You just can't pick it up like you would a regular chocolate chip cookie, because they'll crumble very easily in your hand. So you just got to be careful with them too.
There's such an art besides the actual art on
exactly.
it.
Yeah, there is
an
just
art
a
to
mastering
making
in
it.
it. Absolutely.
Wow, that's such a cool process. I love that. So going back to the art on the cookie and the classes, what would you say for each of you is your favorite part about teaching the class of like creating the canvas on the macaron?
I would say like just watching the process from the very beginning when one of our participants walks in, and then seeing the end result of like what they come up with. Like and especially I think Veronica touched on this earlier, where sometimes people come in and they're a little nervous, a little like unsure about how this is going to go, but you see the confidence in them come out and just like the look of excitement. And I just love seeing what someone else's brain comes up with based on like the inspo that I gave them. So like I think that's the coolest aspect is seeing the creativity that each unique person has. And the other thing is I always tell people in our class too, like embrace the imperfections. You always, especially with the macaron decorating, cookie decorating, I always have to have a plan B, a plan C, because sometimes your initial design that you have in your head may not come out to the best on when you put it down on your cookie. Totally. So there's always ways that you could, even if you make a mistake, there's always a way that you could still fix that mistake, maybe cover it with something, or you just have to adjust, and it will still come out beautiful. And we've seen that on
I mean, I've done it myself.
Our students'
where
work.
I've worked on a cookie and a macaron, and I broke the shell. I'm like, oops. But when I'm designing it, I can cover it
with floral buttercream, or there's always
I cover it with the buttercream frosting design, and I was like,
improvise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to improvise on the spot.
What is the best part about the class is that you can do that. It's not like, okay, this is how you have to do it. This is when you do it. It's just a relaxing, free environment. And for me, I love to see the vision come to life. Like you said, this is what we created. Let's see what they create with it. And when you see them all come together and say, oh, look what we've done, and we take our photos at the end. To me, that's everything. I think it's just the vision of it all.
And that's like what we want to cultivate too with like our classes, is like we also encourage, and we've had people come out too before, but they didn't even know a single person. They actually came like on their own, and they left like saying like, I felt so welcomed even by the people like I was sitting with, like, it's a good way to network or form other friendships. So it's just a great like activity to come out and do, whether it's with your group of girlfriends, your coworkers, your significant other. And we're looking to eventually maybe expand and do probably like children's classes too, like maybe a mommy and me, or so there's like, we have so many ideas that are running through our brain of just finding the time, right, to get it out. But we're very excited with like where it's going. So there's a lot of cool things we could come up with.
Our classes are open up to everyone. So we want to see everyone, like she said, let everyone come out, from young to old, couples, moms, your kids, just, your girlfriends, have a nice, good girlfriend night, bachelorette parties, whatever. To come out and do something new, do something different, and enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And what are I think you mentioned some of this, the mediums that you use for the cookies to create the art. They're all completely edible. There's nothing faux or
Exactly.
weird stuff.
Everything we use, you can consume. It's all fully edible. So, I mean, the main things that we do work with, of course, are the buttercream, and that's, we'll use gel icing to color those. And the other thing is the gel coloring is what we use to actually paint. And the other thing is I actually use, I supply each person a little bottle, and it's actually using Everclear, believe it or not, vodka, which is the highest grain alcohol.
Oh.
So that's something I don't think we talked about, but in the world of cookie decorating and macaron painting, that's actually like a standard ingredient that we use to paint on. And the reason for that is the alcohol evaporates so quickly, it immediately comes off the cookie, it dries quicker that way.
And you're not tasting any vodka.
And you're not tasting any vodka. It's not like you're gonna have alcohol consumption
yeah.
But and like some people, if they just aren't comfortable using that, of course you could still use water or even like a lemon extract to kind of use to to dilute your gel coloring a little bit. But the only problem is with water, water and sugar don't mix very well. So it kind of can almost like eat away at the surface of what you're working on if you use water. So that's why I forgot to mention that we use the Everclear.
That's so
for
funny.
that. But and there's other things that we've come up with too. People could use. I also use it in my cookie decorating as wafer paper, which is just made from like rice paper.
It's
and
edible
that's
paper.
Edible. Just dissolves in your mouth,
everything's
no
edible.
taste. But it adds a kind of 3D element. So
Yeah.
sometimes depending on the theme, we can make like floral cutouts to add to the top of these.
Oh, neat.
What else have we used? We used fondant before.
Yes, we've used
For if we're
fondant.
making any molds to create, like on our seashells, we made fondant seashells or chocolate. So there's a variety of things. Edible
Yeah.
pearls. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different
Yeah.
things that
Wow.
we use.
It's like the world is like so
Yeah.
open in that way. Like it's endless.
Yeah,
It
it
is,
really is.
yes.
It's very, and I'm telling you, the talent
there's-
that's out there that you see what people come up with, and that's what I think really just keeps us motivated is like and inspired. It's just to see like what other people are doing out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, since both of you have your business together of these classes that
Yep.
you're trying to expand, but on your own with your own bakeries as women business owners and entrepreneurs, I want you both to answer this. What would you say is the most challenging part of having your own business?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So I do work full time as a social worker, and then I do my cookie business on the side, which feels sometimes like a second job because I do it all. You have to find your free time, so it's nights, weekends, and you're always working. At the end of the day, especially for the type of work we're in, seeing a photo of what we do is what's going to sell too. So people it has to be visual. So you have to work on your photography, creating content that's interesting, interacting with other people and networking and whatnot. So there's just a lot of the behind the scenes work aside from the baking and decorating aspect that goes into running your own business. So it's just really trying to find that happy work-life balance. And I struggle with that often. I preach about it, but I need to follow my own advice. So it's just, and also I think Veronica might be able to identify with this too, is it's so hard to say no to people sometimes. I feel horrible about, having to tell someone, no, I can't take your order on if it's last minute. So if you could get your orders out ahead of time, that's always best to any of your home bakers. But there's just we wear so many hats. So I think that's the most difficult part about, running your own business.
Yeah, she pretty much touched base on everything. So with me, though, is also being a stay-at-home mom, running my business. I'm doing both. You know what I mean? So while I'm working on my projects, or I'm working on this baking stuff, I have to take care of my kids.
Yeah.
So that kind of a challenge too, and it's a sacrifice sometimes because I have to work on this. But I have to, I have little ones, so they're always they need so much attention, and they grab your attention, they need it from you. So to balance between both of that, giving the time to my children, my home life,
That's always a struggle.
Sometimes there is that sacrifice where I have to make to just continue to work on an order or, I got to put this content out on social media.
You're always, even if you're not you're taking the day, you're still, I feel always doing something, at least on that day, business related.
Oh yeah, business related.
So, and I try to do scheduling date nights with my husband.
It's
It's a little difficult sometimes, but I have to be better about, I know, like balancing it all. So
Yeah, that's definitely.
we want to
That's
do it
what
all.
is.
That's the problem,
biggest
especially
challenge,
as
is
women, though, too.
balancing
We want
home
to
life
do everything.
and business life at the same time.
You both bake out of your own homes?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yep.
Yes.
That's probably a challenge as well.
It is, and you're constantly cleaning dishes and
Yeah.
and cleaning mats.
That's
and
never ending.
You're always cleaning your mixing bowl. So if you want a baking business, expect to have your house always in disarray.
Exactly.
I'm sure both of your families love that they get to eat some
Yes,
sweets.
and having a supportive
Yes,
family is
it's
huge.
It's
So
very huge.
you have to, you have to have a family that's kind of behind you on that. Otherwise, it's difficult. There's a lot of sacrifices, as Veronica, mentioned, that you have to make though when you run a business on the side.
Absolutely, but with the sacrifice comes the reward.
Absolutely.
So what would you
Yes.
say is the most rewarding thing about doing it?
I would say just with the classes alone, or even just like when people buy custom orders, I love getting like the messages from people and like just hearing about, like seeing the photos of them sharing it at their event. Like, and I just love that people are thoroughly like appreciative of my work and enjoy it. And I have to say, like, I'm very lucky, the clients that I have, they, for the most part, really do give me creative freedom. And that's like, as a baker, a home baker, like that's, I think, the best thing we could ask for. Because if you're kind of giving us an exact like idea of what you want only, you lose that ability to kind of bring in your own skill set and your own style. And it's just a more enjoyable process when you have that creative freedom. So a lot of times my clients, they still give me like a theme, maybe color choices or something personal they want me to do, but otherwise they'll say, you know what, kind of do what you own want, like with different things that will fit that theme, you
Yeah.
know? So, but I love just the outcome and the joy that it brings my
Yeah.
clients' face. So
That's great.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
about you?
Really, the most rewarding part is just hearing how happy the customers are. You know, they're like, "Oh my God, this is
Yep.
so beautiful!
Yep.
Thank you so much. It was so delicious." And getting that feedback, that positive feedback, especially all the work that you put into it.
Definitely.
Maybe the little mishaps that you had
Yep.
with it. They don't, there's a lot of behind the
Yes.
scenes that people don't really see.
that we might be
you know?
stressing about, but like
Right,
your average
we don't
person
show
probably
you on
won't even
Instagram,
realize.
you
Yeah.
don't see on Facebook. So that's the most rewarding part for me, is really to see how happy the customers are and that they really appreciate, like you said, very appreciative of the work that you do for them. And I try to keep it as very closely to what they're looking for
Yep.
and what they want. And that's really, for me, that's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
What would you say? I know you've both had your own businesses for a little bit. What kind of would you say, do you get more custom orders or more just, hey, I just need X amount
Yep.
of these for a birthday party or a work party
Yep.
or something?
I would say for myself, most of my business definitely is heavily on the custom sugar cookie work. That's
Okay.
my kind of bread and butter for my business. And I get the occasional, sometimes people actually like to get the custom cookies with matching sets of macarons, which also look
Oh.
awesome together. So,
Cool.
of course, but I would say yes, most of the stuff I get is for special occasions, custom orders, for a bigger event.
Yeah.
Usually bridal showers are big, baby showers, first birthdays. Those are my typical kind of, and maybe different birthdays
Yeah.
of some sort. But I don't, again, just because I don't do this kind of like full-time work, it's only on the side. I don't just kind of bake, drop cookies or some more simple stuff just to bake.
To have them.
So I do mostly custom orders though.
Cool.
only. Yep.
Yeah, same thing. Just custom orders. A lot of people now, they order a lot of macarons. Again, same thing for birthdays, weddings now, for as favors as
Yeah.
well. That's
Yep.
big.
Favors. Yep.
I still take the custom cake orders as well, and cupcakes, the smaller desserts and stuff like that. So I'm still doing that as well. But right now my main focus is the macarons.
Yep.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I love hearing about all of the business side. The creative side is so interesting too, and the fact that you guys are painting on these cookies and teaching people how to do it is just. Well, it's beautiful. It's
thank you.
awesome.
Thank
I
you.
love it so much, and I'm happy that we can help you get the word out more
Yeah,
about it
thank
too.
you. Appreciate that.
But I know you've got some classes coming up. So let's tell the audience what the theme is,
Yep.
where it is, how they can sign up, and all
Okay.
the details about it.
All right. So I know just for the month of August, we do have one class coming up on August 31st, and that's going to be held at Let's Craft, and that's in Westbury, New York. It's the old Source Mall, so I think it was the old Baby Fortunoff. And that one's a luau theme. So that's what Veronica was talking about, the big macaron cookie that has a flamingo design. We have pineapple, watermelon, so it's just like a fun end of the summer type of class. And then you
Yeah.
want to talk about our September? events that are popping up. We have a lot in September.
We do have an event coming up. So most of our classes are scheduled for Thursday nights. So we have a class coming up in Rockville Center at Children's Social Club, and that is from 7 to 9, and where we will be doing a wine and cheese tasting as well as a wine-themed painting. So that's
cool.
really
Yep,
fun.
and I believe
really
that's
excited
September
about that.
14th.
September
Yep.
14th. So that's Thursday,
that one,
September
yep.
14th.
Awesome.
And then we are going to be back at Let's Craft on Thursday, September 21st. Same time, 7 to 9,
Yep.
where we will be doing sunflowers. So that's going to be a sunflower theme. It's still sunflower season.
Yep.
And then on Thursday, September 28th, we will be at the Color Palette in Lindenhurst.
Yep.
And it's more of a fall theme for that class as
Yep.
well. So
Very cool.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
so much fun. And if people want to sign up for these classes, where do they go?
So we have our website.
they can come either onto My Macaron Canvas on Instagram, and we have a link to our website, which is it's the bio site. So it's bio.site/My Macaron Canvas, and right there is going to show all the classes that we have, and they can click on any of the classes that they want to join. Click the link, and it'll take them directly to
where they could sign
where they
up.
can sign
Yep.
up and
Okay,
make
awesome. And then for each of you, for your custom sugar cookies, and then you do your custom cakes and things, what are the best ways for people to find you, both of you, for that?
So the best way to find me right now, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm under FruityBakes _ on Instagram, and then it's just Fruity Bakes on Facebook. And I'm working on a website, so more to come on that. But for now, most of my work is on Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect.
And for me is on Instagram and on Facebook is at PatOlivers19. And my website is My Custom Bakes, PatOlivers19. So anywhere there. Mostly you can find me on Instagram. I always say if you need to find Veronica, I'm on
same
Instagram.
here. We're always on Instagram, so only a
lot of-
DM away.
Yeah, exactly. Just DM me.
Yep.
And
We're very responsive though.
Yeah. we are.
Perfect. Perfect. I love that. And then the Instagram for the classes is at My Macaron Canvas.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, ladies, again, thank you for taking the time to be here and for sharing all of this information, the fun information, the helpful and educational information. Really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun talking to you both. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of GC360. This episode was sponsored by Alliance Services. I'm your host, Erica Becker, and we will see you next time.